And we're back with the program. It's Gerald once again coming right back at you here. I had to talk to this gentleman again. He has been a great guest for us in the past. And with MoviePass continuing to have its issues, I should say, he has been as not only a customer but someone who's up on what's going on with the company. It's great to have him back here again, but also as well to talk about the importance or actually the success of his latest project on Kickstarter that has gone through, and also the transition for this process. It is a great man indeed. He is the founder and chief marketing officer at Fresh Media Works. And you also, like I said, have got to check out his new board game that he's got based off of, well, traditional high school football. It's Friday Night Legends. It is Chris Doelle. What's going on?
I tell you, I'm kind of stunned being introduced as a legend or a great man, but
There you
but
go. There
thank
you
you.
go. You are indeed. You are indeed, Chris. It's just a pleasure to have you here. And I'll tell you what, it just keeps coming up, my friend. You, as a customer, know directly, but it's been in the news again continuously since we last spoke about it. MoviePass has, I don't know, if we were to relate it to like a swimmer in the movie Jaws, it would be that one where they're just barely hanging on to the water and whatnot, just barely above water, just about ready to get eaten up by the shark. Because I'll tell you what, they are still having issues to this day. They just announced that they did repay back one of the loans that was outstanding. That's the good news. The
Yeah.
bad news is that on a day, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, they shut down for a day and were not able to provide customers access to their account so that they couldn't go ahead and watch movies. I believe it was on the day before or day of the premiere of Mission Impossible Fallout. So it's gotten worse. People in the know in regards to the stock industry, into the New Wall Street and whatnot, have downgraded the stock, and it's really, the stock itself has become almost worthless at this point. The future has not looked good for the company, and they just announced that they are modifying its subscription base again. Not only have they raised the prices a monthly for the service, but they now are limiting the actual service itself to only 3 times you can take it to the movies per month, citing the fact that most of their consumers only use it 3 times or less anyways. That's the byline anyways.
Right.
So I ask you, my friend, what's going on with MoviePass in your opinion? And as a customer, are you really getting tired of it, and are you ready to move on?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, when we last spoke, my advice to people was that the old saying, "I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time," and it's like jump on, enjoy it while you can. I wasn't having any problems at the time, but since then, especially Mission Impossible comes out, and it's grayed out on the app, so you can't even, it's not even one of those that's a premium where you have to pay more. It's just not available. So frankly, I had to go see The Spy Who Dumped Me, and I really felt cheated there.
I can
but
imagine. I can imagine.
but I tell you, and I was talking with another friend, and I said, look, I'm giving them until the 15th of this month, and if it isn't straightened out by then, I'm dumping it, because they may say I only go 3 times a month. That's fine, and oftentimes I probably would only go 3 times a month, but leave that up to me. Don't, it's an entitlement. You've given it to me. You can't take it back, or I'm going to be upset. I understand that.
And we understand the fact that they are going through some financial issues, but the way that they're drastically changing the scope of how you use MoviePass is going to send people just off the, just really just off the actual plan itself in droves, because the fact that it just becomes so less attractive. It's still at 3 times a month. If you'd had offered us that in the beginning,
Yeah.
maybe it would be a good deal to a lot of people, because it still is a good deal for a lot of people, that even at $12, $13, that's still considerably less than going three times to the theater and actually paying for it themselves. And compared to other plans that are out there, I think it still squeaks by as the number one option for those type of movie pass deals, because we've talked in the past about competing theater chains actually trying to go ahead and compete in that marketplace. And what they're offering, I don't think even still to this day quite matches up to the three times a month either of that type of deal. But if you are a consumer, you still cannot be pulled up and down, left and right, especially because you had it so good when it originally started out.
Yeah, definitely. And they sent out an email right when this happened to the customers saying, "Hey, we apologize. We're working through some kinks." They didn't, give a lot of the detail, but what they said was that look, I'm losing my train of thought already. They said that we've got a situation where, yeah, Mission Impossible doesn't work, but bear with us, it'll be back, everything will be fine. And frankly, they didn't live up to that. And so that, like I said, I've been bearing with them and hoping and wishing that they're going. I was going to say praying, but I haven't really been praying about MoviePass. It's not that serious, but it just hasn't lived up to it. And I feel bad mostly because I have turned on so many of my friends to MoviePass, and they jumped on it, but they came on it right here at the what I'm calling the end. And now I feel bad for advising them.
And that's something I want to close out our conversation with on MoviePass, and that is the future of MoviePass. It doesn't look good. I mean, like I said, they did pay off one of their loans that were outstanding, but how long can you keep paying Peter or keep taking from Peter to pay Paul in this type of situation? Because they are not flux with cash. Their stock is continuing being downgraded, and I don't see a great scenario where they will be in business that much longer. Share me your thoughts on the future of MoviePass, and do you think it's something long term that the company will be solvent, and or do you think it just be going out possibly even by the end of this year?
Well, I've kind of went back and forth. At first, I thought it's such a good plan, such a good idea that the money will come. You look at the Amazon model, they lost money hand over fist for years and years and years, but they had deep pockets. So these guys don't have those deep of pockets. I kept thinking it will attract those dollars, and it's just not. And frankly, the reason it's not is because the movie theaters all got together, the chains, and said, wait a minute, we could do this without these guys. And I think I love capitalism. I'm a huge fan, but I think this is the downside of capitalism. When you get these guys together, they can crush somebody. And I think that's what's going on. So I don't think they're going to survive.
I don't think so either. I think long term it doesn't look good. Either that, or they're going to probably be reshaped, bought out, reformed in some fashion. That I see, and as far as that's a possibility, but at some point in time, I think the MoviePass in and of itself, the existing model that we have now, is going to be just going to be permanently changed in some form or fashion.
One last thing I want to add, though. It's kind of sad because this was the reason I went back to the movies. I had gone years without going to movies because of all the streaming services, and MoviePass brought me back to the theater. And so it's very sad that if they go, I might go too.
And that's a shame, because the experience of seeing things on the big screen is something I always appreciated. Yeah. Maybe it's because of the fact that I worked for two special effects companies back in the 90s, and the thrill of just seeing every morning, going to see dailies and seeing your work there and realizing that's going to go up on the big screen. Maybe I've always had that with me and kept that with me. So every time I I do go to the theaters. I still get that thrill out of it, but I can definitely understand where you're coming from because of the fact that, hey, the prices are getting more and more expensive. Like for instance, myself, I took a family of four, my family that I take to the theaters, that can get pricey, $50, $60 a shot, and the alternative at MoviePass was just a great option at that point in time.
Yep.
But we might be singing the old epitaphs right here pretty soon for it, but and kicking the dirt up on its grave here at some point in time, because the future of MoviePass does not look good indeed. But there's other things we want to talk about here when it comes to everything that's going on in the world of Chris Doelle. I've got him here right now. He does a ton of podcasts out there, and you got to take a look at his fresh media works as far as his company and all the great things he's done. But one of the things I wanted to ask you in regards to is a successful Kickstarter project that you had. It's been funded, fully funded, and it's for a board game, a tabletop game, I guess. You cannot say board game. You cannot say board game. You got to say tabletop game. It's called Friday Night Legends, and it's based off high school football. I'm assuming the Texas high school football scene, because it's so predominant in our high school football society. I think there's really no other area that I know of that it seems to get more influence from it. Obviously, the Friday Night Lights and the movie of that nature, possibly maybe giving you some influence there. But tell me a little bit about Friday Night Legends and why it's a tabletop game that you need to get a hold of as a sports fan.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, this is something that running the website LoneStarGridiron.com for the last 15 years, covering Texas high school football, we've collected data on all these schools going back 100 years. We've got historical data on their wins, their losses, their coaching records, their statistics. We've got so much data on these teams. And my co-founder and I, we've been friends since junior high. We played high school football together. We've stayed connected with it all this time. And we are gamers too. So we thought, hey, let's figure out a way to do this. And so we did. We put this game together thinking that, hey, Texas high school football is big, and people worldwide know what it is thanks to movies and TV series like Friday Night Lights. And so we just put it out on Kickstarter, and well, it was funded. And the good news is, I say that's good news, but the even better news is that sales now after are going through the roof. It's crazy how much we're getting, and it's not just in Texas. It is worldwide. I shipped my first game overseas just today to somebody in the Shetland Islands, north of England over there, and we get inquiries from all over. The percentage that buy from Texas are about 20% of our sales only. And
that is surprising right there.
Yeah, it is, which is why we've added a ton of out-of-state teams. We've added teams like Hoover, Alabama, St. Thomas Aquinas, and gosh, probably 50 out-of-state teams because of that reason right there, because people want to play nationwide. And
well, I will tell you, I'm from Southern California area, and there was no bigger rivalry back in my day than Banning versus Carson. Is that something on the books as well?
It's not right now, but that's the thing. We have the ability to do that, and that's one of the things we offer is we will put together a custom team as long as we can get a hold of the stats. Now, some of the really old teams, it's harder. In Texas, it's easier because we've got such good stats. I've got stats going back to the very first state championship in 1920. So I can put together any team in Texas. It's a lot harder in some of these states that aren't as big on football. California is a good one. Florida is a good one. Alabama is a good one. Pennsylvania is a good one. But, some of these Idahos, we might not get a whole lot of good stats on those teams.
That's quite understandable. And I'm just curious, like I said, when you wanted to talk more about it, and I looked more into the game, the difficulties in trying to translate a game so visual,
right,
and so relating to sports into a tabletop game type deal. That to me is fascinating because, yes, there have been sports related tabletop games in the past, but for the most part, they have not translated well to a gaming audience, and not many of them have stuck, if any. Well, I mean, as a kid, you had the motorized one with the, sat there with the full football field, and you had the little motorized, zin, zin, like that. Okay, that is, I guess you can consider that a tabletop game, but um, it really isn't the traditional type deal that's closer to what you're doing. So tell me the difficulties in trying and translate an experience that you can see on the field to something that you can translate into a successful tabletop game.
Well, first let me I guess clear up. There are two types of gamers in the world. There's some overlap, but there are two completely different types. The tabletop gamers who play Carcassonne or Settlers of Catan or any of those kind of popular games are one type, and it's a big group. But there's also another huge group of sports simulation gamers who, you would not believe how large this group is. And there's people like myself who are in both groups. And so how it translates, how we were able to make it translate was by those stats. Because if and I'm going to throw out some teams that nobody will know, but it's for an example. There's a team here in Texas called Port Lavaca Calhoun, the Sand Crabs, and they run 99% of the time in a game. They're lucky if they throw one pass. So what we wanted to do was faithfully represent that team. So when you play them, you don't have as many options to pass the ball. So when you're playing against another team that passes a lot, they're going to pass more. And it's not like moving figures and anything like that. It is, I call a play, you call a play. We then compare how my play works against your play on my offensive sheet and your defensive sheet. We combine the results, and that tells us how many yards we made. And then, of course, you roll for penalties and things like that. But it's a completely a statistic-based game. Yes, you have a football field, and you move the football marker and the first down marker, and you have a scoreboard. So it's visual in that representation, but it's not actual players that you're moving around, because that would be nearly impossible to do.
No, I agree. I agree with you on that sentiment. But the sports simulation scene, I can also attest to on that but mainly for now these days, it's been more of a video game concept, because I get inquiries all the time. Do you want to try out this soccer manager, football manager, baseball manager, cycling manager? I've seen all those sports that are now represented in a sports simulation type format that I see all the time now, as far as from a mainly PC standpoint. But definitely it's great to hear that the sports simulation scene is still very strong in a tabletop fashion. And it's interesting to see how it's related, especially, in fact, something so specific as high school football that you're trying to correlate to, and that you've had such success off of it. Let everybody know out there exactly why they need to get this game, and then also, where can they get this game? Because right now, you said it's really selling well, and international sales are already starting to take off. So tell me, my friend, where can they go and get this game, and why should they get this awesome game?
We were at the Texas High School Coaches Association Coaches School last week, which is the biggest collection of coaches in one place. Over 10,000 coaches are there, and how we were representing it there was, look, this is a fun game. It's a blast to play. You can play it anywhere from one player. There's single player rules if you want to, do the two teams against each other, up to 4 players, and ages 9 to 90. And even if you don't like playing sports simulation board games, it makes an amazing gift, because I know there's somebody in your family who likes football, because it's such a big deal. And as far as where to get it, FridayNightLegends.com. It's very simple. pretty simple stuff. We have over 150 teams available right now, as well as the board game itself. So you can mix and match who it is you want to play.
That's Friday Night Legends, now available, like you said, on FridayNightLegends.com. You got to pick it up today. It's getting close to that time of the year when you need to start thinking about gifts for the loved ones. So definitely that's something to think about there as well. Well, Chris, it's been great having you on. But before we head on out, not only is Friday Night Legends the great tabletop game that you have available, that's something that obviously people need to know about, but I know you said you had some podcasts as well, because I think you mentioned you were up to 6 podcasts at this point in time, or am I mistaken?
Well, yeah, it varies. I've got about 6 that I do, and then I edit for a bunch of other people. But and I think I may have mentioned this last time, the easiest way to find any of those podcasts is to go onto your podcatcher of choice, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, anything like that, and search for my name, Chris, last name Doelle. Because it's a unique name, it's easy to find me that way.
Awesome, awesome. And that's available on pretty much any other platform, including, like you said, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, anything on Spotify?
I'm not on Spotify right now. I've held out on doing that, and not for any particular reason, just because I'm so darn busy.
Well, I hope you get on there, because I know it's really a popular platform as well. But that, once again, for all of his podcasts, you just got to go ahead and type in on whatever podcatcher that you have, Chris Doelle, and that again is Chris, Chris Doelle. Chris, it's been great having you again on the show, talking all the great stuff that we talk about. I hope for your sake that MoviePass does stay attractive to you as far as the experience of going to the movies, and that will keep going for you. But I'm not holding out much hope, my friend.
I'm with you, Gerald. Thanks as always.
I always appreciate it, and I hope to have you back on the show, because it's always great to have you a part of the pop culture cosmos.